What do you think it takes to get put on trial for murder? A confession? DNA evidence? A clear motive? Well, in 15th century France, the answer was a lot simpler. All it took was being a pig. Nope, that's not a joke. It's a documented historical fact. But first, the visuals in this video are AI generated and may not be 100% historically precise. The content is intended as both entertainment and educational exploration, not as a definitive historical record. In a world run on superstition, faith, and a legal system that would feel totally alien to us, an animal could be arrested, jailed, tried in a court of law, and sentenced to die. Today, we re-looking at one of the strangest legal cases ever recorded. The 1457 trial of a sow convicted of murder, and the wild twist that let her 6 piglets walk free. This is the story of how one French village served justice by executing a pig. Picture a courtroom. The air is tense. A serious-looking judge is running the show. The accused is brought forth. Lawyers make their case with passion. Witnesses are called to testify under oath. And in the dock, the accused stands there, silent, facing a death sentence. But there's no person here. The accused is a pig, tied up and under guard, literally on trial for its life. This wasn't a fairy tale. This was justice in the village of Savigny, France, back in 1457. To really get your head around this, you have to go back to the late Middle Ages. Think of the small French village of Savigny, caught in the dead of winter in December 1457. Life is tough, a constant grind against the weather, a cycle of farming, faith, and fear. The line between the human and animal world is blurry, to say the least. Livestock, especially pigs, aren't just chilling in neat farm pens. They're roaming the muddy, unpaved streets, scavenging for food right alongside people's homes. Pigs were everywhere, a source of food, but also a constant, low-grade danger. It's in this setting that a 5-year-old boy named Jean Martin is playing, probably without much supervision, which was common back then. In the chaos of village life, one moment of distraction could be fatal. On this day, a sow and her litter of 6 piglets, owned by a local man named Jean Bailey, cross paths with the boy. What happens next is pure horror. The sow, whether out of aggression, hunger, or feeling threatened, attacks the child. She and her piglets maul and begin to eat him. When Jean Martin's remains are found, the tiny community is horrified. Grief quickly turns into a demand for justice. Accusations flew, identifying the culprit as a sow owned by Jean Bailey, along with her litter, who were allegedly caught in the act. In the eyes of the law and the community, the real culprit was the animal itself. The sow and her 6 piglets are named as the attackers and formally arrested. Today, this would be simple. The animal would be put down, and the owner might face negligence charges. But 15th century France had a whole different rulebook. The sow wasn't just caught. She was formally arrested. She and her 6 piglets were thrown in a jail cell, probably at the local abbey, waiting for their trial just like any human suspect. The jailer even charged the court the same daily fee to feed the pigs as he did for human prisoners. The owner, Jean Bailey, was part of the legal proceedings, but he wasn't charged with murder. The court was focused on the animal from the start. Bailey was only accused of negligence, a serious mistake, but not a crime punishable by death. He was given a chance to argue for his pig's life, but he decided not to. The 6 piglets were also locked up at first. But in a weird early move, they were released. Maybe their owner, Jean Bailey, had a change of heart, because he brought the piglets right back to court. Standing before the judge, he officially disowned the piglets, stating he would not be responsible for any future crimes they might commit. With their owner having bailed on them, the piglets were declared vacant property and handed over to a local noblewoman, Catherine de Barneau. The stage was now set for a truly bizarre trial. This trial wasn't some joke or a bit of village entertainment. It was a formal, serious legal event in a secular court, following all the complex rules of the time, a mix of local tradition, Roman law, and church doctrine. The court records show a surprising amount of legal procedure. There was a judge, 2 prosecutors for the state, and 9 named witnesses who testified about the crime. The prosecution's case was brutal and effective, arguing that 9 witnesses had sworn the sow committed the murder flagrantly on the boy, Jean Martin. While in some animal trials a defense lawyer might be appointed, it wasn't a guarantee in secular courts, not even for people. In this case, since her owner wouldn't defend her, the sow stood trial all alone. The most mind-boggling part of the trial, though, was about the piglets. They were there at the scene, and some records say they were found covered in blood. The judge and lawyers argued over a question that sounds ridiculous today. Were these baby animals morally capable of being accomplices to murder? Deliberations considered whether their guilt had been proven and if they had truly partaken in the monstrous act. After hearing from all the witnesses and legal experts, the judge made his decision. The sow was found guilty of murder. But in a wild judicial twist, her 6 piglets were acquitted. The court decided there wasn't enough proof that they had actually helped in the killing. Their young age and the lack of direct evidence saved them from their mother's fate. They basically got off with a warning to be on their best behavior. For the convicted sow, the sentence was death. The judge's official verdict declared she was to be executed by being hanged by the hind feet from a gallows tree. This wasn't a random choice. It was the standard way of executing animals for this crime in the Burgundy region. If the trial had been somewhere else, she might have been burned alive, like another pig convicted of a similar crime in 1266. The execution was a public event. The condemned sow was dragged to a public spot for everyone to see. This wasn't just about getting rid of a dangerous animal. It was a powerful, symbolic ritual. The whole community would come out to watch. For them, this was justice being served. It showed that both human and divine order had been restored after a horrifying and chaotic event. The public execution sent a chilling warning not just to other animals, but to their owners, reminding them to keep their beasts under control. So you're probably thinking, this is completely insane, right? Why would an entire society go through the trouble and expense of a full legal trial for a pig? The answer is buried deep in the medieval way of thinking. These trials, which happened all over Europe from the 13th to the 18th century, didn't seem crazy at the time. They were the logical conclusion of a world where the lines between people, nature, and God were completely blurred. First, you have to think about religion. The church taught that God gave humans power over the animal kingdom, so animals weren't just mindless creatures. They were part of a divine order and could be held morally responsible. A rooster laying an egg, for instance, could be tried and executed for acting against nature, which was seen as a sign of witchcraft. Second, the legal system was getting more organized. Courts and professional lawyers were popping up, and they applied the law to everything with painstaking consistency. If the law was the final word on right and wrong, then it had to apply to every crime, even if a non-human did it. To just kill the pig without a trial would have been seen as personal revenge, not public justice. The trial made the punishment legit and proved the law was in charge. Finally, and this might be the most important part, these trials played a huge social role. In a world that often felt random and scary, a trial created a story of cause and effect. The death of a child was terrifying. By blaming the pig, trying it, and executing it with full ceremony, the community could restore a sense of order and make the world feel stable again. The animal was a scapegoat that could be easily caught and punished, providing closure that was often hard to get when the criminal was a person who could just run away. The Savigny pig trial was hardly a one-off thing. Pigs were the most common animal defendants in medieval Europe, mostly because they roamed free, and often came into conflict with people, especially unsupervised babies. In 1386, another pig in Falaise, France, was mutilated, dressed in human clothes, and publicly hanged for killing a child in a grim, theatrical show of justice. This was just how the system was supposed to work. The case of the Savigny sow is now a weird footnote in French legal history. Animal trials eventually faded away as the Enlightenment brought a more scientific worldview, and the legal system started thinking about concepts like intent in a way we'd recognize today. Still, the story is a fascinating window into a totally different way of thinking about justice, responsibility, and our place in the world. It shows a society trying to make sense of something senseless using the tools they had: law, religion, and ritual. The trial of a pig for murder really makes you think about how much our basic ideas of justice have changed. It's a story that's both horrifying and, in its own weird way, fascinatingly human. So what do you think? Was this society just trying to create order out of chaos, or was it superstition running wild? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this weird piece of history, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more strange stories from the past.